Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to another video. We're here. It's the first look at Shadowlands. And in this one today, we're going to be looking at the Balanced Druid specialization. A first look. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it suck? Is it OP? Well, it's the first iteration of Alpha, and might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves if we really did that. But you know, it's YouTube algorithm. We got to get you interested, right? But there are some very important takeaways initially in the alpha that are important, such as philosophy towards the game, which I'm very excited about right now. It appears that they want to bring back class identity, they want to bring back spells, utility. Dump that all on me. Rain that on me. Rain that on me. That's what I've wanted to hear for 3 expansions, ever since Warlords of Draenor, where they started doing the snip snips, the snip snips. Ever since then, I've wanted them to hear that. So that's a great first step. So when I'm going through this first deep dive of Balanced Druid and the first look at it, what I think and everything, note that the philosophy is great, and right now everything else is kind of like, this is the first thing we get. Because there are a couple things that I'm not sold on. I'm a bit flaky with. So the first time when you log into Shadowlands, you'll notice you're level 50. So level 50 is 120. Those are equal. They're scaling everyone back, and then you'll level to 60. If that's something you care about number-wise, that's what's going to happen. The other thing you might note when you log in is that your spell book, you have a general tab, and then you have a druid tab, which means that all of these spells all druids get. Now, some of it already does overlap, like all druids had Moonfire, all druids had Prowl. So some of this isn't necessarily new, but there are a couple of them new. So I'll just be pointing out the things that are new. Stampeding Roar, it's back. If you're a Feral or Guardian, it never left, but for Boomkin and Resto, it's back. This is a very fun spell. It's a long cooldown, so you don't get to use it very much. It's pretty big impact because you sprint your whole team, or you can choose to sprint yourself, or maybe sprint yourself and only one other ally. So the choice in player versus player in particular is very deep with this. Do I want to use it to get on top of the other team and try and finish them off? Should I save it and try and use it to get my team to run away? What if we don't finish the game? Do I want to sprint my whole team and run on top of them? I need to get in range for... There's a ton of decision making here, and because it's a long cooldown, you got to really make sure you pick that right moment, and you're going to be able to differentiate yourself from other druids based on your ability to pick when to use this spell, which is great. So I'm very happy to see Stampeding Roar come back. That's the first significant difference. The other one is that you'll get Ferocious Bite as all specs, regardless of affinity. So if a rogue uses Cloak of Shadows, he's about to die. Even if you're not Feral affinity, you can go in cat form, shred, bite, try and finish him off. Very similar to Mists of Pandaria. And then also in Bear, you'll be able to use Iron Fur, which in Battle for Azeroth, they made it so you can't Moonfire in Bear. The only thing you could do is Mangle if you weren't Guardian affinity. Now you'll have Iron Fur, so you can beef up your armor a little bit. It's very similar to how Demoralizing Roar used to work. You go in bear form. I'm thinking Cataclysm. You'd go in bear form. You could apply Demoralizing Roar to everybody, which reduced physical damage they dealt. This is very similar, but it only applies to yourself. So just a little bit extra utility, something you can do to press in bear form when you got nothing else to do, being trained down by melee. And then the other one coming back here in the general tab, so all druids again. Cyclone, not an honor talent. You get it. We have it. We have the technology. It's here. So Cyclone will be baseline. Excellent, awesome to see it come back. Bark Skin got buffed, so it lasts a little bit longer. But aside from that, there's not anything that's going to stand out here in terms of like what all druids get. When we look at the balance tree now, so this is the abilities that only balanced druids get. I'm Talented Incarnation, but this would be Celestial Alignment. It's 15% crit when you activate it. Innervate's still here. Probably more important that we note what's new or what's changed. So Starfire is Starfire. It's not Lunar Strike. It's just a name change. Starfall is now no longer, you put a circle on the ground, stars start falling, and you know, you never pressed it. You probably don't even know what it looks like because you never pressed it because it wasn't good. But now Starfall is casted on yourself. And I'll show you here in a sec. The one thing that I'm not a fan about it still is that it costs Astral Power. So you can see I already forgot what I was doing because I spaced out, but it competes with Star Surge. I just leveled up. Look at that. It competes with Star Surge. So maybe we need to dial this back. Go look at the new system. So in the patch notes, they said they're going back to the Wrath of the Lich King Eclipse system. I don't want to say misled, but I misunderstood what that meant. Astral power is still here, which is Legion Battle for Azeroth. The only thing that's changed is what you'll remember is if you played Balanced Druid, if you haven't, I'll explain it. You in the current game, you'd Star Surge, you get a buff. Your next Solar Wrath, your next Starfire, they're gonna hurt people. And it lasted pretty long, so you get to keep them and you could choose when you wanted to pump out those buffed Starfires and Wraths. In PvE, you just pressed them when they were up because you didn't have to think too much about it. In PvP, maybe you have to go cyclone something, heal something, help something, run, sit in bear form, AFK. You had to do something else. So you would just sit on those empowerments, use them later when you could. Now, Star Surge doesn't give you empowerments, okay? Star Surge doesn't give you empowerments. When you cast Wrath or Starfire, so let's see, I'll press Starfire, I have a chance to buff all of my Wraths for a certain amount of time. So there you go, I got my Eclipse. Now all my Wraths are buffed, but it's only for 7 seconds. So if I have to do something else other than press Wrath right now, especially in PvP, I'm not going to get to benefit from that. Also, it goes on cooldown, so now I want to be pressing Wrath and hope that I buff Starfire. And then I want to be pressing Starfire. But you can see that it only lasts like 9 seconds. You can buff the duration of it with Star Surge, so now it's going to last a little longer. But it's not very much. And the main problem is that you're going to have to do other things. You're not going to be able to benefit from those. To me, it's still essentially the same system, except it's random, and the buffs that you get don't last very long. And in PvE, maybe it doesn't matter because you're only supposed to be pressing the damage buttons in PvE. But in PvP, 8 seconds is a very small amount of time. I gotta do other things with my time. I can't sit there just pressing Wrath and then pressing Starfire and going back and forth indefinitely on that. And then if I don't, I miss my buff. I don't like it. I think that the Legion BFA resource system plays more smoothly in PvP than this version. 100%. I thought that we were going back to the old Eclipse system where it was like a bar going back and forth, and Starfall was a cooldown, and Astral Power was gone, and maybe we get Star Surge procs back with dots. That was the most fun version of Moonkin still that I've played. That's what I thought, but it's not. It's very similar to Battle for Azeroth, but non-functional in a PvP environment. So that I'm very worried about that. So that's the resource system. In a nutshell, that's the resource system. So Starfall is now casted on yourself, and as you level up, when you get to level 54, it will also increase the duration of all of your dots, which isn't a big deal. It's not a big deal. Sunfire applies to all targets standing next to each other. It's very easy to get dots up on Moonkin now. Like, dots are just dime a dozen. Everybody gets to ramp up instantly, and everybody gets dots. So extending the duration of them is like, nah. You're on Twin Moons, you Moonfire 2 people for 1. You get 2 for 1. So in PvP, I see that being kind of meh. This guy's going on an epic adventure. I see it being kind of meh. But Starfall is different, so take that into account when we're looking at the spells. It is different, and when we get over here, you'll see the eclipses. In my mind, you could just replace the word eclipse with empowerment. It's the same thing, except it lasts less time. It's generated randomly, only from your casted spells. And I don't like it in PvP because you're never going to actually get to benefit from the actual rotation of it. I'm not a fan of it. But its empowerments are basically now Eclipse. The other good buddy that's coming back here is Typhoon. Love Typhoon. So one major thing that I'm hoping for Moonkin and Shadowlands is that we go back to being a spellcaster support. Because in Battle for Azeroth, what you are as a Balanced Druid is a target dummy. You go in bear, you hope you don't die, you press Solar Beam, you try and pump Star Surge out and win the game, I'm then back in bear form. May as well play Guardian. Kind of did. So with Typhoon coming back baseline, I'm really hoping this opens us up to being more mobile. You'll see Ursul's Vortex as well, but this is not baselines because I'm Resto Affinity. But between having Typhoon and Ursul's Vortex, and hopefully some more healing, we'll be able to just move around the map like we used to, and be a spellcaster, and then try and avoid the fight the way that I enjoyed playing Balanced Druid. Those are my hopes based on what I see here as like a first observation. Aside from that, the only other change will be that you can't just Swift Bend all the time. You see, I can't press Swift Bend. It's because I don't have a hot. I have to have a rejuve up. Now I can Swift Bend. But it takes my rejuve away. I think this is good because Druids are supposed to be this heal over time, slowly like pick the whole team up style of healer. So to get that instant heal, that powerful single target heal, you got to give up some of that AoE temporarily, right? There's a bit of a risk reward there in managing your healing. I do like that. Coming back, like I enjoyed having drawbacks, you know, and having risk and reward. I don't want my class to just be, wow, I ruffle stomp you, I win all the time, like a lot of other people want their class to be. I'm someone who likes like, oh, I got to come out of Boomkin, I got to get a hot up, and now I got to Swift Mend it off. Do I want a hot again or go back into Boomkin? There's a lot more thought to it than just, boom, I healed a lot, I can't die, I'm going to win every time now. I really like drawbacks, so bringing this back as kind of a Druid drawback in terms of your healing output is very nice. It's going to matter more, I think, to Resto Druid, but if you're running Resto Affinity, it will matter to you as well. So those are the most notable changes towards the talent, or towards the spells right now. So we get Stampede. Where is it? It's on the other page. We get Stampede. We get Cyclone. Those are immediately the biggest impact baseline abilities. We get Bite and Iron Fur. It's a little bit of extra something to do when you're in cat or bear form in those given circumstances. Starfall is casted on yourself, not in a circle. Eclipse is empowerment reworded, except more clunky and random. And then Typhoon, our buddy Typhoon is back. And we get Vortex if we're Resto Affinity. So we get a little bit more movement. Now, when we look at the talents, there's no new honor talents, but because Cyclone went baseline, we can start fooling around with some other stuff. I've never liked Prickling Thorns because I always thought of Mage as the Shatter class. Like, you root someone, you hit them, it shatters, and they blow up. And this kind of feels like a Shatter combo. Like, you're supposed to root them, then break the root and Shatter combo them. But if I'm rooting someone, it's because I want them to be rooted, not because I want to hurt them. And it's like, it's too much like a Frost Mage. I've never liked this honor talent because of that. But you'll be able to fool around with stuff. So maybe now you can get Thorns more often, or now you get Deep Roots and try and go for roots that are going to sit through your dot damage a little better, or a Disarm. Your honor talents are going to open up a lot because Cyclone is baseline. When we look at the base talents, there's nothing really new per se on the first two rows that are notable. The only thing that's really notable here is the Affinities tab. Each Affinity gets one added ability. So Feral Affinity will get Maim. This is not a big deal. The only spec that really cares about this is Resto, because Boomkin is... you're never going to run this, I don't think, Feral Affinity. Getting Maim, something to use combo points on instead of a big Ferocious Bite. They're probably already on Stun DR because you rake stun them. It's just kind of meh. Guardian Affinity gets Incapacitating Roar, pretty big deal there. So if you played in Miss of Pandaria, you'll remember doing the Incap Roar and then Cycloning. It has a good crowd control chain, so you'd get that as Guardian Affinity. Guardian Affinity is still pretty good. Then Resto Affinity, now we also get Ursul's Vortex on top of the other already Rejuve, Swiftman, and Wild Growth. So it gets those Ursul's Vortex solar beams, try and pin somebody in place and burst them down for a little bit. It was always fun. And then on this tab, we got Bash, Mass Entanglement. I'm going to have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure Bash went down from being a 5-second stun to a 4-second stun. I also think the cooldown went up from 50 seconds to a minute, I'm pretty sure. So I'm pretty sure it's nerfed slightly. Mass Entanglement, still the same. Root everybody, 30-second cooldown. Heart of the Wild. It's back. And everybody's going, oh my god, Heart of the Wild, Miss of Pandaria. Oh my god, it was so sick. I could heal everybody. It was so great. You don't have Cenarian Ward. You don't have Nature's Swiftness. Those two things were what enabled Heart of the Wild enabled Heart of the Wild to be really good. Okay? If you Cenarian Warded someone with Heart of the Wild, they were full health. UNS Healing touched somebody with Cenarian Ward, or with Heart of the Wild, they were full health. You don't have that. You've got Rejuve. So you're going to put Rejuve up, and then Swiftmend. And so my Swiftmend heals 900 more with it. 900 more. The only real benefit is the mana, because if you press Regrowth without Heart of the Wild, you're going to out of mana in 4 casts. So you get a little bit more heals with it. But it's a very long cooldown for not a substantial benefit, and you lose your only stun, or you lose an instant way to apply Solar Beam to a healer. Don't get super excited that it's back, because it's in a position where it's really tough to take. It doesn't have the abilities that synergized well with it anymore. It's a minute shorter cooldown, I guess, but it's not as good as you think that it's going to be, but it's back. Soul of the Forest has changed now, so because empowerments are gone, this used to buff your empowerments. So empowerment is now renamed Eclipse. It's nice. Starlord is still just haste, which in Battle for Azeroth, the corruption system is actually, you could scale it pretty high with percent haste, but I don't think it'll be that great. And then just the good old Incarn, 3-minute cooldown, beef yourself up into an armored chicken, run around scaring everybody. That's probably going to be the default go-to in PvP, at least for a while, because if you're not running Incarn, I don't think I can respec when it's on cooldown, but it's only 15% crit while it's active, not 15% haste. But the main reason Soul of the Forest is not going to be too great is because when you're engaged with a mob with this new system, so right now, because I have Incarn, let's cancel it. I want to be casting Wrath, let's say. I buffed my Starfire. Now I want to be pressing Starfire. This buff doesn't last very long. 3 extra seconds on it still doesn't make it that long. And then it's going to run out. And if I have to do other things, then I lose out on the buff. It's kind of meh. Stellar Drift it's the same, but Starfall changed. So now Starfall's casted on yourself. So when I Starfall, I need Astral Power. When I Starfall, I'll be able to move cast. So I can move cast Cyclone. Let's say people are chasing me. It's like, get off me. I can move cast. I see the utility for Starfall in PvP more so about the move cast and less about the damage. I really am afraid that Starfall is going to do nothing again. Also because it competes with Star Surge, which is your hardest hitting attack. Because it directly competes with Star Surge in terms of the resource, it's going to be very difficult to use. But it may situationally be useful because it allows you to move cast. I think it might... Are you the only caster that can move cast? I think you might be the only caster that can move cast, if that's true. So if you're chasing a healer down on the pillar and they're lining, you can go for move cast clones, and you don't have to worry about them running out of the Starfall because the Starfall's on you. So there's going to be some utility there, and that's the only saving grace right now I see for Starfall in PvP. I'd much prefer Starfall go back just being the cooldown, but I don't think it's going to happen. And not directly compete with Star Surge. Twin Moons is the same. Stellar Flare is the same. Never really liked Stellar Flare, to be honest. I feel like Moonkin, when it goes to 3 dots, starts to compete in Warlock Fantasy and not Moonkin Fantasy anymore. Like, 2 is already, like, pushing it. You're, like, Shadow Priest territory. If you're at 1, you're Ellie Shaman. So, like, 2 has always felt good. 3 is, like, eh. I've never liked Stellar Flare. Shooting Stars is still the same. Fury of Elune is still the same. I was playing Full Moon because I really want Full Moon to come back. I loved Full Moon in Legion. There's something about casting just a slow spell that crashes down from the sky, but it hits 300 harder than Star Surge. It's a really long cast. It just doesn't. It hasn't. Let's be real here. Full Moon has just not delivered for all of BFA, and I'm worried it's not going to do anything in Shadowlands 2. I would much rather go back to being baseline, do a bunch of damage, because it doesn't have to compete. Like, the way I'm viewing this is that if it does too much damage, then it's the talent you take all the time, and then there's no other opportunities to run these talents because it's a talent. But if it was just baseline, maybe it could get beefed up, and then you put another talent here that competes with the other talents. But I would really like to see Full Moon restored to Full Moon. But that's going to be it for the talents. We've looked at the spells. You're going to be level 50 when you log in. 120 gets scaled back to 50. Overall, I'm excited about the utility. I'm really hoping Moonkin comes back to being the wild charge, run around the map Moonkin, try and utilize crowd control off heals and get a bunch of damage out rather than just, I'm in bear form, I can't die, haha. I really hate that just you sit in bear form, can't die, haha. Ironically, because I rerolled to Guardian. That was more so to emphasize it than anything else, but I really hope that it goes back to the springy Boomkin running around, attacking, staying away from the fight that I enjoyed playing originally, which it could based on the utility that's coming back to it. I don't like the new Eclipse. It's Wrath Eclipse applied with new Astral Power. In PvP, it's going to be too clunky, I think, and it's not going to function as well as the empowerments from the current build did. So yeah, I'm happy with utility as the first look. Not super happy with it rotationally. What else? I think that's about it for the first look here at Balanced Druid. The move casting could be cool to check out. So when the alpha progresses further and we get to the stages where we start doing arena testing, my goal here is to log on and look at every spec and make a video for every spec here. So if you're watching, you definitely want to consider subscribing, and then I'll be going through every spec, doing my best to do at least a spec a day, going over the differences, the changes, what I anticipate to be good about it, play style, and if you'll find it enjoyable after that. So I hope that you enjoyed this kind of bramble of Balanced Druid. But this is our first look at it. I'm very excited about the philosophy that's applied to this expansion, although right now I'm very concerned with how the new resource system is going to work in PvP. The utility that's coming back to balance makes me hopeful that it's going back to the bouncy Boomkin that ran around doing casts and heals and tried to avoid damage rather than I'm the bear that sits there and gets attacked. So either way, I'm very excited about it because of that, and I hope that you'll tune into the next video. Super T's signing out, and we'll see you later.